Greetings. Taking a stroll with my son, getting clarity. Gotta speak on a very vital topic. Divine justice and judgment is at play. To my young men, to my young women, to all. Let's give an honor to the source. I'm gonna jump right into it. Y'all heard me talk about false empowerment. Let's also talk about false or distorted brotherhoods. A lot of people will get offended by this, but again, some of you are coming into who you are will be through the uncomfortability of authenticity and truth. I'm gonna stand on business regardless. It's not an attack on what people have come into and how they have obtained, say, success, or again, if you know you have been in integrity, you don't have to worry about anything or question anything. So let's talk about false brotherhood. To my mothers, women, listen closely. If that man isn't trying his best to see his shadow, meaning spiritually face the very things that has been keeping his lineage stuck, stagnant, from progressing, from honoring and respecting women, even trying to shift the narrative of what real empowerment looks like, which is honoring the feminine and masculine within himself, which you cannot be who you are without first learning through childhood into your adulthood, which most men don't even know what a healthy brotherhood looks like. A lot of them have been a part of things that have humiliated them, preyed on their childhood woundings, and given off this false empowerment. That's why a lot of fraternities or a lot of groups or a lot of things do not really uphold the image and the power of women, do not really honor what a divine feminine actually represents for them to actually be a divine masculine. Some of them aren't familiar with the terminology. Some of them have never seen healthy men. Some of them have never seen healthy women. This plays a major part in their belief system. This plays a major part in how they even came to be and who they are now. And so that, therefore, the world has never seen a divine masculine, or humanity have seen very few, let's say, that come through in a vessel to express what needs to be restored, what has to be restored for humanity to progress. And when you look at culturally, the music, everything that has projected this illusion of everything but empowering women, especially darker women, but women in its totality. So when you see men that are a part of certain things come into this false brotherhood or come into this distorted brotherhood or false sense of power, if that man hasn't learned to master himself, his emotion, if he hasn't learned to learn how to become aware of his impulses, his patterns, whether that be self-sabotaging but patterns and so forth, he is living in a false sense of self. This is what you're seeing highlighted. It doesn't matter across the board, patriarchally, in political systems, in your hierarchies, whatever you want to call it, where again, there's nothing that is honoring the feminine principles in a healthy, holistic way. So again, It's very challenging for people to take on that and receive it because they never either seen it. Because again, I've expressed to you all that men are visual. They're visual. So a lot of them have learned things visually. They have came from a distorted matriarchal. So what I've seen play out on this world stage is that we so proudly want to glorify men of certain power and status financially, through sports, through career, through all across the board, leaders in certain areas, without honoring and respecting the man who's mastering himself, which will be a man who may not at that moment care enough to have said status. He's more focused on empowering himself. He's more focused on mastering himself. He's more focused on bettering himself day to day, instead of giving off this false identity, false empowerment. How you doing? False empowerment or illusion that he even cares about the well-being, not only of himself, but for children, for the mothers, and so forth. So, again, false brotherhood. Let's be honest. A lot of you have been a part or go to schools. I don't care if it's universities. I don't care if it's HBCUs. I don't give a fuck what it is. I know it all too well. I know people all too well. When it comes to what they idolize, what they uphold, again, this false empowerment of even having respect for themselves and women and children. This is what y'all not, y'all got it. Listen, children and women. When you don't have respect for yourself and you're not connected to your inner essence and your inner child, a lot of what you have seen displayed on this world stage, what you have seen displayed in the last few hundred years, especially certain countries that have prided themselves in self-righteousness and colorism when it comes to your workspaces, when it comes to even men who don't look like men, that are darker, and giving off this false empowerment as if they even care or respect other men. No admiration, no, even we have to realize that when I mean false brotherhood and false empowerment, when you look at what the world has given us or what we have collectively created, and you're seeing it play out through people, they're literally just preparation for what we all have been either enabling through the distorted feminine, to breed and give birth what you see patriarchally in your leaders, in your celebrities, in your music, and all of that shit. So again, I ain't mad. I'm just bringing awareness to the fact of, if you're gonna call a spade, call it. But at the same time, how many of your leaders, how many of the people that sit back and call themselves of high status, I don't give a fuck how much money, what they have, again, how did they obtain it? What high horse or what is enabling and fueling there? When you look at the industry, when you look at certain things that keep certain people in what they call empowered, but a false sense of empowerment when it comes to the fact of wanting to feel that they're above anyone. And that's the biggest illusion. It's the biggest separation of it all. Well, the biggest illusion is separation. So as much as people, what they have put out there, when I say false brotherhood, it also stems from false sisterhood, meaning that a lot of you women who click up, who are part of your stay-at-home mom groups, and you're part of what some may use the term as white supremacy, some of the women that I always call out who don't speak up about certain things because of their passive aggressiveness, because they're avoiding the conflict, but yet they're right there with the same men who sign over things to keep people in a place as if they're lower than them. And there's no difference in people that are darker as well, who go right along with the program until the program needs to be updated. So now that the program is updating and a new belief system and a new hardware or a new system is in place, we will all see what we have been enabling, what we have created. Even I'm not exempt. I wouldn't be here today if I did not recognize the fact of how deeply I was traumatized or programmed to believe that I shouldn't love myself, I shouldn't respect myself, I shouldn't honor who I am as a human being, honor who I am as a man, hold space for the versions of me, the imperfect perfectness, if that makes sense, but just to want to evolve. And that's what we're all seeing. You're going to see things happen. In my best, I wouldn't even say advice, what I would share with people. Some are going to attach, some are going to hold and clench so tightly to the false empowerment, whether it be religiously, whether it be demographically, whether it be spiritually, and so forth. It go on and on. That is their mission. That is their purpose here. But for a lot of you, again, to mothers and women, a lot of you too don't even recognize, to men as well, what you've been holding so tightly to until you go through this almost psychosis or almost this disbelief that what have you been believing in? What have you taken on? What belief system do you even really have? And that's why, again, let me tell young men this and men this. Some of these elders, I keep telling y'all, they will gatekeep exactly the truth, whether it's bishops, pastors, and so forth. People will gatekeep things, and it don't matter because color don't make you king. I recognize how certain pastors that are darker, you gatekeep things to really keep people from finding out who they are. To keep them to finding out, to get to know them more, to recognize the source that's within them, the God, as some may use the term, within them. Who were you before your pastor, your bishop? Who were you before religion was even introduced to you? Who were you? And what's so vital about this is that it's not about convincing anyone. It's like convincing my son, to tell my son, you take on my narrative, you believe everything I say, without actually coming into his own awareness of things. No. We share things. We guide them the best way we know how. And the only best way we know how is from what we've had to learn and unlearn. And if what I've learned has not gotten me to a better place and progressed in so many different ways, what I mean by that is like brought me a sense of peace, harmony, and truth, I have to actually look at the men that I was surrounded with. That's what I mean by belief system. That's what I also mean by, it ain't just the men that I was around, cousins. I'm talking about pastors and preachers too. Because young men, you have to realize, once you're dealing with men, we are different, we're visual. And sometimes you're dealing and encountering wounded men who do not have a connection to this said source or align with the divine. They will convince you otherwise. If it's anything, again, outside of respecting yourself, affirming yourself, and learning the importance of how you have something in your pants to create life. A lot of us was exposed young to not even see the importance of that. Men are very simple. We're assertive, we're action. And most importantly, if you're dealing with a healthy ego, there's nothing to prove. So when you're dealing with a wounded man, which I've been there, feeling like I had to compete with the world, which you see in a lot of what the old narrative is, you're sporting and a lot of things was literally out of a lot of wounded ego. a false sense of empowerment, a false sense of power to make it seem as if this man is better than the next because he's more athletic, because he's darker, because he has this status, he has this money. And truthfully, young men and even men who are willing to receive this, that shit don't matter. It ain't gonna matter at the end of the day. I've seen so many men been around people who have the status and have no depth to them. They have no depth to them. That meaning they have no connection to their emotions. They have no connection to who they really are. And that right there will tell you they have no connection to the true source that gives life to everything. To the women that they so proudly try to put below them with their religion, with their politics, with everything. That is bullshit. Because a nation can go no further and go no higher than this woman. And what you have seen today, young men, if you pay very close to fucking attention, your cultures, your industry, your music, everything has done everything to keep women from progressing. And that's the very first thing you come from, is out of the womb of your mother. You come through the womb, so your mother is the first teacher. You're learning your emotions. She's nurturing you. Something get crazy in life, you know for a fact you ain't calling your daddy first. You calling mama. And the real one know that. Depending on the relationship with your mother. Because a lot of us had the mother and father ourselves. But a lot of you have been dealing and have dealt with over the past couple hundred years of men who have created. Let this plane go over. Who have created communities, societies, built even environments and so forth of false teachings. A lot of y'all don't have the courage to challenge the fucking narrative and don't realize that. Speaking this message, one thing elder told me was like, don't trust nobody who is afraid to make enemies. And there's an African proverb, there's no enemy within, there's no enemy without. Meaning that people can choose to be your enemy. I'm not an enemy of anyone. I'm just a guide. I'm just sharing some shit that, again, a lot of our women have been misguided because of the false empower of men who have been so distorted in their ways, in their patriarchal, who, again, have been teaching or sharing or having them under this illusion spell of not really knowing their true power as women, as the matriarchal, who give life to all of you boys who grow into your adulthood, who grow into the men. When you talk about manhood, that comes from developing the fact of you also have feminine principles. A lot of this manhood that people grow into, their brotherhoods and everything and so forth, has a false sense of empowerment. It's a false sense of ego. It's more geared towards a wounded masculine, a distorted feminine, which is a wounded masculine, reflects that. And that's the thing about, I came through this shit. I lived through it. From a woman who had a distorted feminine, who through her actions displayed a wounded masculine behavior. And when you see a society, this is what you see. When you hear about what has happened to our kids, how you can be so more fucking focused on protecting, which is all crumbling, these false ass men of empowered who care nothing about our kids, who care nothing about the well-being of our mothers and how they live, if they're thriving. And that's who y'all call y'all leaders? That's who you call powerful men? And they empty inside. And they're teaching their next sons the same bullshit, which will lead them down another road of self-destruction and self-sabotage. And you're gonna see it play out on the world stage. When I see some of these celebrities, people of status, even the people you don't see publicly, a lot of that stems from a distorted feminine, a distorted masculine, woundedness. They're crying out. They're crying out. And because society has been so distorted in their beliefs, they don't even have compassion, which is a feminine principle. They don't even care to nurture, especially men like myself that are darker. That's just why men that are going through things, when you see I'm gonna tell you, these are the men patriarchally that have built these systems in place that keep women looping through the same shit, never really getting them to a place, or for them to get to a place of, again, them coming back home to themselves and being honest with themselves. These are foundations, these are structures that have been created from men who have paraded this false sense of power to keep that distorted narrative alive. And it's all gonna become so clear. And some of you won't get this message until years later. Some of you won't come into a lot of things. Some of you are gonna realize that a lot of your fathers, a lot of your grandfathers, your forefathers or great grandpas, however you want to call it, they were a part of creating that shit. Yep, they were a part of it. I can even say some of the men in my family who were unaware, who had womanizing ways, who were so wounded that all they knew was to continue to create broken fucking homes, to create multiple mothers, baby mothers, or create multiple kids, and never really acknowledging their role, never really sitting down with themselves, never really healing from their mother wounds. This is a society, communities that are built off fucking mother wounds, a distorted feminine masculinity. And I don't give a fuck if someone don't see it the same. You're gonna see it play out. And it's okay for people to be against it. Those are gonna show you the ones who are just a part of keeping women and our children, feeding, harvesting their energy to keep shit afloat when they got so many holes in their boats. It's so obvious now. Those with eyes will see. And I don't mean just physically, spiritually speaking. No one can hide no more. No one's exempt. Can't hide behind your money, the fame, the industry, the music. You can't hide no more. It's all gonna fade to the back. So, going back to even how this illusion that gives off, speaking on what is it called? The YWCA, something that's like something that's supposed to empower women. Let me tell you something. From just noticing the loopholes and false foundation people purposely put in place, not even empowering the women, not even speaking life into them, more documenting, seeing who's in the home, preying on the single mothers with kids, never giving them and offering them the mental stability or even offering them really genuine support. They'll help to an extent. They'll help and give them certain finances. They'll help. And I'm not saying it hasn't helped some women get to where they are, because some people have to go through certain vices and lessons. But when I see the loopholes in that shit, and a lot of these things that, again, empower women, but there's nothing for There's nothing for men. This is where the loophole is. When you have women that are so attached to a system that doesn't really support them emotionally, that doesn't really, I've spoken before how women are ruled by Venus. When you have attention, pleasure, and honesty. When you don't have systems that are being honest with women about who they are, how valuable they are, their history or her history, they're who they are and value them. You're not being honest. So you can't possibly create longevity in something in a relationship. What I've said before, there's no mutual respect when it comes to even darker and lighter skinned people in certain countries. There's no honesty. There's a lot of passive aggressiveness in the workplaces, in the careers, and certain people who are in position to literally be put in position just to prey on those same women, to keep them looping through the same systems. They keep their generations stagnant, which is all ending. It's all crumbling. That's why these things are being spoken. But again, the false sense of empowering people. They're not empowering the women. These feminist groups, they're not empowering women. A lot of them are just to get money, to keep their homes stable. A lot of women that are lighter in those places where they have these positions, they're not speaking. They're not really, again, they're very passive aggressive. I've seen it. They're passive aggressive. They're not wanting to connect. A lot of them and their family has history of people who probably most likely have had people in captivity, or deeper than that, or even just the fact that their family simply don't even like darker people, so they're hired in these positions. And if you think this shit ain't significant, it's very significant. Because y'all afraid to end what they call racism, which is a form of self-hatred. Because that will make people be forced to talk, to speak about the very thing, what they hate about themselves or what their lineage has been continuing for so long. Y'all don't realize that's how energy and certain shit is transmuted. When the negative meets the positive, when the negative or negative and positive meets each other, or what you put out, the seeds you've sown. And this is what's happening. So again, the systems that are put in place to support certain women, but men have to go out there and develop this false sense of identity to build resources to overwork, to overextend themselves, to put themselves in a disposition to make the women convince them that they have to provide and protect without holding space, without the men holding space for their emotions, themselves, and so forth, which is feminine principles. Again, just keeping the distortion alive or feeding poison. So again, this whole narrative of certain things in place where y'all don't even see the fucking bullshit. When it comes to shelters, when it comes to a lot of shit, yeah, of course, the systems that were created by men who preyed on the woundings of not only your children, but you, who literally created that shit simply so they can keep men away. Because they know that's when you're most vulnerable. You don't have your protection. You don't have the man there, which, again, men are ruled by Mars. You don't have the respect there. You don't have that, that importance of admiration. And then the more men are away, how you gonna create more kids? How you gonna really face and sit down and communicate shit that's going on? Huh? Y'all don't even see it. It's right in your face. So how you think you're gonna unheal this shit? You're gonna have to come right back to the very things that created it, to expose it, to dismantle it, to speak about it, just for something new to be created. So again, there aren't what people believe to be resources. So if we keep the woman in a distorted feminine way in her, and also her assertiveness, woundedness in a masculine way, she's not going to ever have respect for her son, which grow into adulthood, which grow into the men that you see today. She's not going to ever respect herself because she don't respect the man. She's not going to ever share and give him the admiration because she's hurting. She's wounded. She's not even going to value herself when it comes to sex. Because that's another thing with men. Again, that's just what we're ruled by. So when she don't see the importance of that, and she don't see the value of herself, this is where you have systems created in place strictly for baby mamas, single mothers. Systems created just for you to be dependent on that shit, on those things which you call resources, but in a way, you don't even see yourself as a resource. You don't even see the man as a resource. You don't even see yourself as something that's connected to source or a higher power. So again, all these things are coming to a head for y'all to realize, what the fuck have you been enabling? You're teaching your daughters the same thing. The false sense of empowerment. A false sense of empowerment, thinking like, yeah, girl, when you're not being honest with her, when you don't have no one being honest with you, she'll continue to go out there and create dishonest relationships, not only with herself, but with other men. She'll continue to think that she got to devalue herself with sex because she's been believing that that's all men care about. And it's not. Because a man of value and substance that respects himself and disciplines himself will see sex more than just something that you just get from a woman. And this is from a man who went celibate. Again, a false sense of empowerment, where we learn through music, where we learn through certain things that were so distorted that we have collectively had a belief system on false empowerment. We haven't been empowering ourselves and others because we ain't had shit in place to empower not only the women that look like us, but the men and so forth. And the ones that don't look like us have taken that narrative on and have hidden so much that they develop a false sense of belief or a false sense of empowerment. And so this is what caused them to be so passive aggressive, because they're afraid to speak about the truth. You have the women, again, who are afraid to speak the truth. Two lighter shade women who are afraid to speak the truth to darker shaded women. So a lot of y'all in y'all DNA structure runs that same self-hatred boiling in y'all blood. The same belief system of your great-grandfather, great-grandmother. The same belief system that y'all know that has been in place for many of years, hundreds of years, eons, so forth. Now things are being balanced out. And you're going to see the very men, y'all going to see it on all scales. It's a domino effect. It ain't just who you see publicly. It's all going to play out. Just going to make way for the divine mother and divine father. So, yeah. So interesting how, again, once you see the loopholes in the distorted feminine, and how that has played a role, and how you see women and men all today, then you'll be able to see the distorted masculine or the wounded masculine play out in everybody. Masculine meaning like people's actions, their assertiveness. So now, the only way you can come home with that is be honest with yourself. And that's why I always highlight the matriarchal, because you got to be honest. Women, you have to start to be honest with yourself. No matter how uncomfortable it is. You have to be honest with yourself, or you will just continue a false sense of empowerment that you're giving to your sons who are going to give life or bring forth life eventually through what they represent patriarchally, and meet the next woman who represents the matriarchy. That's your responsibility. Because if I love you, I'm going to hold you accountable. So ask yourself, what type of false sense of empowerment have you been upkeeping or enabling? Peace and blessings. Shalom.